My name is Senator Gene Yo. I'm the chairman of the board of the Center for Rural Pennsylvania. With me are several of the members of the board, and I'll introduce them in a minute. The reason for this conference today, or this press conference, is to release a report which the Center for Rural Pennsylvania has prepared. And the caption of that report is Heroin, Combating This Growing Epidemic in Pennsylvania.
Heroin is an equal opportunity destroyer, killing kids, parents, siblings, grandparents in small towns and big cities. And the overdose numbers continue to soar. Township supervisors, police, and emergency responders are among those looking for answers to an epidemic that has turned into a public health and safety nightmare.
The poppy plant was growing in Mediterranean regions as early as 6000 BC and has since been cultivated in a number of countries throughout the world. The milky fluid that seeps from the unripe seed pod contains morphine, a highly addictive drug that has been used to treat pain for more than 2 centuries. In 1874, a chemist altered the molecular structure of morphine to create heroin. The drug was commonly used to treat painful respiratory illnesses such as pneumonia and tuberculosis. By 1899, the Bayer Company, maker of Bayer aspirin, was producing about a ton of heroin each year. The drug was eventually removed from the market as reports of addiction became prevalent. So if heroin has been around for more than 140 years, why then, all of a sudden, has the abuse of the drug reached epidemic proportions? Understanding this epidemic begins with understanding opioids. Opioids include any substance or compound that interacts with opioid receptors in the human body to counteract stress and pain. These opioid receptors exist in the brain, spinal cord, and digestive tract. Opioids that engage these receptors can be natural substances produced by the body, such as endorphins. Opioids include drugs made from the natural secretions of the poppy plant, like codeine, morphine, and heroin. Opioids include synthetically produced prescription drugs like oxycodone, Vicodin, and Percocet, to name just a few. The 20-year period from 1990 to 2011 saw drastic increases in the number of synthetic opioid prescriptions written and dispensed in America. This reckless trend of prescribing resulted in drastically increased occurrences of addiction to and abuse of the highly addictive opioid prescriptions. While the United States makes up less than 5% of the world's population, our citizens consume 80% of the world's opioid supply. When a person suffering from an addiction to an opioid prescription can no longer obtain the drug from a healthcare provider, they often turn to a cheap, readily available alternative opioid, heroin. While not every patient that takes an opioid prescription medication becomes addicted, studies show that 4 out of 5 people, or 80% of those suffering with heroin addiction, began with an opioid prescription medication. So how bad is it here in Lycoming County? From 1990 to 2011, drug overdose deaths in Pennsylvania increased by an astounding 570%. In 2003, drug overdoses surpassed motor vehicle accidents as the leading cause of death among adults. Between 2009 and 2013, opioid abuse claimed the lives of 3,000 Pennsylvanians. That's 1.5 times the capacity of the Community Arts Center. Studies show that 1 in 4 families is now affected by this disease. According to a 2015 DEA report, Pennsylvania ranks 9th in the nation in drug overdose deaths, and heroin is the most frequently identified drug in toxicology reports. Emergency rooms treat 30 or more opioid overdose victims every month, and the death rate in our local communities is now doubling each year. To make matters worse, only 1 in 8 people that need treatment for heroin or opioid addiction is getting the help they so desperately need. A community epidemic demands a comprehensive response, and Lycoming County residents take community very seriously. When data on this emerging epidemic began to circulate in 2013, President Judge Nancy Butts took action and formed the Heroin Task Force with the help of West Branch Drug and Alcohol Executive Director Shay Madden. The two solicited the help of leaders, professionals, and everyday citizens from throughout the county to address the rise in heroin and opioid abuse. In 2014, the Center for Rural Pennsylvania, chaired by our own state Senator Gene Yaw, conducted a series of hearings throughout the state, which culminated in the most comprehensive report on the heroin epidemic in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In the medical community, Susquehanna Health System, under the leadership of Stephen Johnson, had already been 2 years into prevention efforts by developing pain management and safe prescribing guidelines. The collective vision and leadership of these 3 initiatives laid the foundation for what would come to be known as Project Bald Eagle. Project Bald Eagle is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is leading coalition efforts to stem the tide of the heroin epidemic in Lycoming County. Our organization is led by a board of directors comprised of community leaders that represent the various segments of our community-wide coalition. They include Dr. Davy Jane Gilmore, Judge Nancy Butts, Stephen P. Johnson, Dr. Ken Trachty, Senator Gene Yaw, Shay Madden, Dr. Vince Matteo, Reverend Andy France, Eric Linhart, Dr. Todd Fosnot, Tony Musser, Michael Pollock, Dr. Beth McMahon, Joseph Yoder, Donald Benson, and Maddie Antonacci. Project Bald Eagle relies on dozens of volunteers that serve on mission-specific subcommittees that analyze trends within the heroin epidemic, identify specific problems, and create solutions that take us closer to bringing an end to this plague. The implementation of those solutions often requires the help of hundreds of volunteers and concerned citizens just like you. So, how can you help?